Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic weekend. So today's upload is going to be a video about the potential for a complex system that's going to come in several waves next week. The confidence on this one is pretty low. That's not unusual. We've had lower confidence on systems before, so this isn't anything record-breaking. It's Saturday, the 1st, February 1st. Right now, meteorologically, we still have one more month of winter left before we transition over into spring. Astronomically, we have a month and 21 days. So just a little information right there for you. So yeah, again, talking about the snowstorm, a little bit about the pattern and temperatures as well. So before we get into this video, if you would like to consider subscribing to this channel, I would highly recommend you do that. Obviously, it's my channel. Check out the channel, check out my videos, decide for yourself if it's worthy of a subscription. If you are a consistent viewer, you're a subscriber, and you like this channel, consider clicking the like button, the thumbs up button. It really helps out. It's probably the best thing you could do for this video and this channel. Thank you. Let's look at this GFS model, Global Forecasting System. Right now we're looking at 006, and let's just play it through motion. So there was a system off the East Coast. It went off. It's going to produce quite a bit of snow across the Maritimes, Canadian Maritimes. However, not for the United States, not for the East Coast. A little bit of snow for Michigan fell today across a good portion of Michigan. Wasn't anything too heavy, though. Could move into portions of Pennsylvania and Ohio as you speak overnight. That could be interesting. We have a little bit of light snow, light to moderate snow, nothing too heavy, across portions of Wisconsin and the UP Peninsula of Michigan and into the Arrowhead of Minnesota. Notice we see a warm-up, and now this is what's going to cause this next snowstorm to really even evolve itself. You can see this is really going to bring in nice temperatures for the Super Bowl. Very warm temperatures. Many people are going to be very pleasantly surprised in Oklahoma, Kansas. Maybe not surprised, but pleasantly pleased. I mean, seriously, 60s, 50s, that's some nice temperatures, especially for the Super Bowl time. And notice that these locations will be chillier as there's snowpack, but if you have no snowpack on the ground where you live, and in Iowa, say, then you'll definitely probably get up to the 50s. If you have snowpack, though, a good inch or two, even that much is going to probably hinder the warmth down to the 30s. Notice we see this storm develop. It's mainly the main component of energy up until this point was this Pacific moisture that came in from British Columbia, went through Washington, Montana. It's going to drop quite a bit of snow across Wyoming, Utah, and into Colorado. However, this real storm intensifies. You can see on Tuesday, Monday, late Monday night, early Tuesday starts intensifying. Really, the first wave isn't overly impressive. The models earlier on were showing a little bit more of a more impressive wave. Right now, they're showing a little bit weaker, not as profound and not as really. The baroclinic zone is a little bit less tight, so this storm is not as really dynamic with its snow or its rain either. So notice this first band, yeah, it could drop maybe 1 to 3 inches across some locations, and some heavier rain as it moves off towards the east into Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Those locations could see some heavier rain. Notice the GFS puts out this second band, which could actually move into the parts of the coastal areas of the Northeast, right? And it originates across portions of central Texas. So if you live in these portions right here under this blue, if you know where you live on this map, in Texas, find your location. If you live in this blue, you have a shot at seeing some snow. Now, usually, the snow that occurs so far down to the south is usually moderate to heavy, as there's plenty of moisture. Total snowfall out of just that little band, you could see some pockets of up to 6 inches. I wouldn't say is out of the question. So, depending on where that sets up and whether or not this model is right, we could be looking at 6 inches. Up to 6 inches across Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. So that would be a pleasant surprise. Notice this moves into the Northeast, right? So this doesn't really do much across the Northeast. However, we see the second resurgence right here of possibly a second low developing, or even a third low. It's going to be a series of lows, this whole system, really. So it's not really fair to call it one storm, but it's going to be confusing if I call it several storms, as really that first wave, as I showed you across Monday, Tuesday, is going to be too weak to even call it a system or a storm. You could see this wave really, though, impressive across parts of New England, into portions of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. So that could definitely be something to be excited about if you live in those locations. you've been lacking on snowfall, you may get a good dose of snow out of that. If you were to look at the total snowfall accumulations, they're pretty impressive. We get a widespread 6+ inch event that is marked by that pink color. Let's go to the northeast. You can see this gets into portions of western Ohio or eastern Ohio. You can see up to 3-5 inches. That's a little bit of a change. Didn't see that much snow. Parts of West Virginia as well, seeing some snow, some decent snow out of this. Into Pennsylvania, most of Pennsylvania seeing lots of snow out of this, and into portions of basically a whole entire state of New York, excluding New York City. I'm sorry guys, New York City may not look to be getting the most out of this. You can see Connecticut, northwest portions, seeing a little bit of snow, quite a bit actually, up to a foot according to the GFS, and Vermont, New Hampshire, just really seeing lots of snow, 14-15 inches, pretty widespread, including Maine as well. Northwestern Massachusetts, or I would say the northwestern half of Massachusetts, really seeing 12 inches plus as well. Let's go and let's look at some of the other models now. Some of the modeling, and let's discuss those outcomes. You can see that the Canadian has a snow swath way to the north and west. Now, this would include portions like Detroit, Michigan, southern Michigan would get hit by snow. So you can see that's where the difference lies. There's still a lot of uncertainty. I wouldn't really say this is a good scenario. In the fact that, no, not that I don't like it, it's the fact that it doesn't seem likely, as the European and the GFS are more in agreement. I'm not saying that just because those two are in agreement that the Canadian will be wrong just for that sole reason. That's flawed logic. However, when it comes to the other high resolutions models, they're not just showing what the Canadian is, which is this low pressure system coming in at a completely different angle. You could see really delivering this heaviest of the snow across Illinois, Wisconsin into Michigan versus the Northeast. And you can see we have that first wave and then a second wave right there, which could be very, very, very significantly more powerful than the first wave. And again, the snowfall amounts are rather impressive from this, including portions of Canada as well. So Detroit, if this scenario were to come true, you would get a lot of it. If the other scenario were to come true, the one that I first showed you, portions of Pennsylvania, western Ohio, portions, I should say lots of Pennsylvania, excluding maybe the coastal or the areas closer to the coast, mainly West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania would get a lot of snow, and then obviously the interior parts of the Northeast, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So that would be a nice system, right? Well, let's look at the European now, and let's see what it does. So this is again just the low pressures. This isn't the surface and precipitation map. It's a 500 millibar geopotential height. It shows the low pressures as well. You can see it shows this main low pressure, the stronger one, Friday, February 7th, centered right across here. That would not bring snow into portions of into Michigan and or either really Pennsylvania. It would be more centered across Canada. Okay, so that would be a little bit different. The European shows even different scenario, kind of in between the GFS and the Canadian, though more leaning towards the GFS. So let me show you the surface and precip. So let's look at the European model now. Again, it shows that system off the East Coast, so a fairly good agreement. It's the European. It usually does a very good job. Then we have that, that Pacific moisture coming in through the mountains, Wyoming, Utah. There's already winter storm watches. I think they might have been upgraded to warnings already. I'm not too sure. I know I just saw them several hours ago that they were watches across most of Utah and into Colorado. So we'll see about that. That snowstorm looks pretty potent, despite it being relatively moisture starved. It may get a little bit of enhancement from the winds and using the mountains to its advantage. Notice that we get that resurgence of precip from the European model, so it does the same thing that GFS and Canadian does. It kind of sends out a couple of first waves, light snow, but it really concentrates itself across Oklahoma and Texas, the European, so that could be a surprise. Notice it sends out a wave into Indiana, Ohio, a thud of snow possibly before it transitions to rain across the Northeast. And then this is where it intensifies a second low pressure. Notice, however, this one is way to the north and really affects portions of southeastern Canada, not really the U.S. Now, and then obviously you look at that, we have a second system possibly the European puts out. So we'll see about that one. But this one would not be a big snowmaker. This one would be mainly ice, rain, nothing too significant in terms of snow, right? Well, now which one is right? You can see that the European shows let me click on the total snowfall amounts. The European shows definitely by far the least amounts of snow. We also noticed that up until then we could see a little bit of snow across Pennsylvania, New York, and into Michigan from that little event that I talked about at the beginning, that little disturbance. But look at this. That's pretty miserable, actually. That's not a lot. I mean, if this were to occur down south, then that would be pretty significant, right? The European doesn't show it that much. It shows a little bit across Texas and into Illinois and Missouri, but that's really a 3 to 5 inch event. Maybe here a little bit more. But you could see that if we were to look at the other model run, you could see that it would be different. So the European has done a lot of jumping around, which again obviously leads us to, okay, less consistency. You could see that the European one model run ago took something more like what the CMC did. The Canadian put a little bit even further up to the north and west. So if anything, the European has shifted it to the south and east, and may do so continuously up until it hits the northeast. The European only comes out twice a day, only at the midnight and at noon. So it really does, you know, it's not really often like the GFS, which does every 6 hours. Not that often either, but way more often, twice as often as the European, to put it in perspective. And the latest GFS model run hasn't really conformed to the European model at all. You can see it still keeps it across the northeast, and it hasn't shifted it much since its last model run. Maybe a little bit to the north and west, actually not much at all. A little bit, yeah, a little bit of a shift to the north and west, but that's minimal. That's basically, it's, you know, what the models, a little bit of model variance that is natural. Nothing, not really a big shift in the track. The GFS has been very consistent, while the European has been less so. I wouldn't say the GFS has been very consistent, take that back, but it's been more consistent than the European. So that leads us to still, again, obviously lots of questions, lots of details to be answered, or questions to be answered, lots of details are unknown. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Keep watching this channel. I will be uploading videos in the next couple of days about the system. Stay tuned to your National Weather Service, as that obviously is a good, great source of weather. They're the official ones. I'm just here to kind of have fun a little bit with it. But again, I do try my best to inform you and have my opinion about these models. But overall, thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. There are several scenarios that could play out, and we will all get that you know, focused out in the next couple of days. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.